was a 4-unit in Hagerstown. The guy had 1 day left on his inspection period. Everything was good, they were moving forward, and then the COVID thing happened. He got cold feet and got out because he had his contingency. We put it, then we had to go through all the reshowings. Multi-families are tougher to show. A month later, we sold it for the same price. So it just didn't really matter at all.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't
I
have
have
any
like
effect.
an anecdotal subjective experience. I feel like there is much more for sale signs, and I have a personal experience. I lowballed like retail property, like way under asking price, and they accepted it. I ended up backing out for personal reasons.
Where was it?
It was a single family house. It was listed for like 310. I offered 280, and they accepted it like right away.
That's strange.
And
Well, I mean,
there was no bidding wars. There, like
yeah.
it's a personal experience. I feel like it's breaking down. We'll check it.
I just saw today on the news that unemployment was going down. It just went up, in the most recent records, and interest rates are going to start to go up. So I think there's some cracks in the foundation potentially here. Yeah.
I was talking to some of the folks at Quesco today, and they were saying that basically some of the lending rules or guidances are changing, especially on buy and holds. They're not looking at ARV as much as they are, what's the cost of acquisition, what's the cost of rehab, what's the rent rate, what's your experience of this. So things are changing. There are cracks, as you were saying.
ARV is subjective, right? Like if something happens, the projected ARV 6 months down the road is totally subjective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
So just to give everyone some about cracks that we had to throw it out there.
So what I'm thinking is, like, if you're going to refinance or if you got to sell a personal residence or something, you probably better hurry up. It's hard to project what you're going to do from an investor standpoint, just because you're 3 to 6 months out on everything.
Is it time to sell the rental?
Oh yeah. I think so. I think it's time. Might be too late. Who knows? It might be run on another year. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
But a lot easier.
Yeah.
We'll know in about 90 days. Because as of July 1, basically the state of Maryland, all the support goes away that you've had for the past year and a half to the common people.
Yeah.
At that point, you either have to start paying your rent.
Everything's been propped up for so long, like it's finally just.
Yeah. So at 90 to 120 days, you should have a good sense of where things are at least heading. May not be there, but at least heading there.
One of the other things that people have been talking about for a while is, there's possibly like a foreclosure wave going to hit, but I don't think that is going to happen. That's not, because I was listening to I watch, what is it, CNBC? Yeah, the Financial Network, and they had the CEO of Bank of America on there, and he was talking about all the forbearances they went through, and he said they've worked out deals with like 90% of the people that were in forbearance. They figured it out. They got a payment plan, or they stuck it on the back end.
That's what most of the banks are
saying.
saying.
So I don't see that, and from what I'm hearing, that's not really going to. And think of how ridiculously low inventory is. Whatever's left hits the market, it's just going to get sucked up. It's not even going to matter. So I don't think that's one of the key things that we'll see.
There will be no crash, but we will return to normal something, right? So
yeah, maybe just slow down.
You will
a
have
little
different
bit,
speech
right?
next time.
This will start to go back up to this.
It will start pitching.
It won't crash, but maybe it'll go back up. Who knows?
So what about like construction prices of material? Because is it still going up and up now?
That's starting to. I heard it's starting to level out.
Level out, yeah. Lumber.
Yeah.
But it's not just lumber, right? It's like cable wire and
appliances, like all this crazy stuff. But I've heard that I don't remember exactly how to explain this, but people were buying the futures on that stuff because there's no supply, and they bought all these futures, but then it started to come back, and so they're actually losing out because that price didn't go to where they thought it was going. It started to come back. So that just says the trend is it's going to come back in line. That's like not me not knowing what I'm talking about. Telling me.
But it started in the last month.
Yeah, that's right.
Like you just, your normal lumber is starting to drop like 20-30%, where it had increased like 300%.
Yeah.
It's only come down like 20 or 30 is an estimate.
Yeah, and I think most of that was probably because of COVID, right? Things shut down, and then the demand was there, and they couldn't catch up. But maybe they're finally catching up.
But also, I mean, this is a totally different conversation. Maybe I heard a presentation today on like China's strategic plans for things and what they're doing around the world, which is really, really scary. But like they're producing everything, and so they can sort of like what the Arabs did in with the oil, and so they just can stop producing. And it's and then that's the price is going to spiral.
Buy American, man.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing to buy, right? I mean, like Sub-Zero manufacturers are free.
All right, well, we got a lot to cover.
Yeah, let's get
We're gonna start
rocking
getting
and
deep
rolling
quick.
here.
So, those of you that this is your first time, thanks for coming. Here's our team. Tina in the back, which makes a lot of things happen. Guydell, he's one of our virtual assistants, and then Lisa and Dustin handle a lot of our acquisitions and dispositions. So I think probably everybody in this room has heard this. If you're not already a member on the Facebook group, the I-81 Real Estate Investors, it's a great way to stay connected in between meetings. A lot of deals are passed around there. A lot of different vendors are available on there. So if you haven't joined, please hop on there, join. We're not going to spam you or anything like that. So our partners, I think most of you have probably heard about them or have utilized them. We got Melody Williams down at the bottom with Modern Home Staging. She just did a flip for us that closed, the day
2 days
before,
ago.
2 days ago. It looked great. And then ASK Heating and Air, they do a lot of HVAC work. They're local. And then Star Insurance out of Chambersburg, handle all your insurance needs. So I just texted Todd at Star today, answer in 10 minutes. So now's the point of the meetup. If anybody's got a deal to pitch or a service they want to provide, you need something, a success story since last meeting, now's your chance to kind of get in front of the room that probably can help you with whatever you got going on.
And all of our international viewers
Yes.
and online viewers.
I'm on.
All those people in China.
Very,
I'm sure they are.
got about on that front now. Here's your TikTok account. Anybody? I know somebody's got something.
Brooks always got something.
Hey guys, Brooks on with Lion Film Solutions. Glad to be here. Thank these guys for putting this special meetup on for you guys free of charge. You should thank them for that. This is a great place to come, like they said, to pitch deals, because you will do deals here if you choose to, right? So we offer deals direct to buyers in this room. We sold deals to Bill and Mike, many other people. I don't think Mike Graham yet, although we're working on Mike. But we do direct to sellers, so we buy directly from the homeowner, various different situations they may be facing. And I'm not going to get into those because you all know what they are. But we offer multiple different options to them. So we offer a cash offer, but we offer a lot of different things to help the seller. So cash only works for about 1% or less of your sellers. So we fill that void of the other 8 to 10%. We do wholesale. That is the main income revenue strategy for me. And I do have a portfolio of about 30 rentals. So I'm always looking for deals. If you got a rental property or if you got something you're not sure how to do, give me a call. I'll leave cards in the back. It's the easiest way to contact me.
Awesome.
Thank you, Brooks.
Anybody else? No. I'll go, Tom.
Our newest sponsor.
So my name is Tom Tinsley, a licensed agent. I'm really here representing a property management company, East Coast Real Estate Group. We work here in Berkeley County. I live in Berkeley County. My business partner lives in Berkeley County. So we're very local, even though we have a large name, we're local. As well as Washington County and Frederick County. And I'm going to speak it into existence. I would foresee us right over the Pennsylvania line in 2022, servicing Waynesboro, Greencastle, and the other one. Thank you, chamber.
That's the biggest one.
Again, I'm letting that out of the bag, but coming soon. We did actually bring some flyers this time, so it does have our pricing, it has our services, it has our contact information, all of that. Rick, you're up there in PA, right? So anyway, we focus on service and technology. Both of those are extremely important to my entire organization. It is a difficult business, as many of you know. We've got 30 units, I heard the evictions, right? You guys know it is not an easy business, but we do focus specifically on service to our owners and service to your property and your tenants. And that is not just bullshit. That is literally what we get up every single day and do. So check us out online, our reviews. There's a few hundred of existing owners, prior owners, tenants. You know, of course, there's going to be some not so awesome ones from tenants, right? But we manage a few hundred every day. It's going to happen, right? But 4.7 out of 5 across everywhere online. But anyway, if you have any interest, please grab a flyer on your way out, and we will be here every month. So we're not going anywhere. Look forward to getting to know more of you guys.
Thank you, Tom.
Awesome.
Anybody else? Bill?
My name is Bill Zook. I'm with Cresco Management. We're a hard money lender. I already gave you basically the news earlier about what we were talking about this week, where things are going. We do lend for buy and holds as well as fix and flips. Fix and flips are pretty much always the way they are. The only thing tightening on that side is real new people who are just starting out. Joe does have some ability to partner with people who are just starting out to gain the experience with experienced people. So that's not to slow you all down, but it's out there. So, you know, give me a shout if you need. I got flyers. If you ask me for them, I'm more than happy to give them to y'all. And I'll post some stuff up on the website also.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Bradley, you're always blowing up the I-81 page. That's Bradley.
I'm pretty much looking for a duplex. I want to owner finance if possible. I have one rental. I actually just got it rented this month, so pretty excited to get started. And
Congrats.
yeah, I'm pretty much looking for a duplex or anything bigger between Hagerstown and Stevens City. So if anybody has anything, it'd be awesome. You guys would bring it to me. So yeah.
Awesome.
Good deal.
I don't have a duplex, but I kind of am going to try something a little different with a rental. I just had to go vacant. I got a 3-bed, 1-bath in Hagerstown. It's been rented for the last probably 5 years at $975. Probably could be rented for about $1,050 to $1,100-ish right now. It needs probably about 10 grand worth of work. I'd be looking to sell it, but I want to hold the financing. So you got probably about 9 grand. We could probably work something out. And not sure if it'll make sense for you or me, but I'm willing to give it a shot because I just got too much going on right now to rehab it. I'm rehabbing several others right now. So if you know anybody, I'd be willing to discuss based on what they're going to put in and their experience. We probably work out some terms that make sense for both of us. So
Where's it at?
it's in Hagerstown City, just on the south end. Yeah, just on the outside. So
What's the street?
it's in the 900 block of Summit Avenue. Yep, almost. If you know where the new Amazon building is, it's probably about 2 miles from that, maybe less. So, and then on the next slide, I think we have our probably going to be one of those houses I buy that my wife's like, "What do you mean you bought this?" I mean, the view kind of says it all. We've had a lot of interest, but this is definitely one of those properties that's a little unique. Be an excellent Airbnb. We've talked about doing that. It's down in Gerardstown on 3 acres and 3 and change. There's a lot you could do here. Trying to find anything on the market right now for 90 grand is tough, especially with a view like that. I mean, it could be a primary residence, it could be a flip, it could be an Airbnb, it could be your primary residence. There's a lot of different options here. You got anything more you want to say? Bill's got a great video walkthrough of it if you want to see more. or if you want to go view it, you can climb through the window. This window right here is
How do you get in there?
already busted out for you. So, what's that?
The lockbox.
Yeah, those things are expensive, you know. You don't want concrete out there to pick it up.
Comes with a big screen TV.
Yeah, and there's a couch. I mean, come on, we're full
A
service.
basketball hoop and a tricycle. Actually, 2 tricycles there, so we get some added stuff there.
But really, that right there is pretty
Yeah.
awesome. So,
And I think what we would do is we probably have to go down there and cut some of those trees down to
Yeah.
open that view up. Because the property, so it's almost at the top. So it's looking this way, and there's another property about right here, and it's gorgeous, and it's got that view opened up. So all of this is gone. They cut all that out, and you can see the whole valley down
if
there.
we buy it, we might have to host a meetup there because we're going to write it off as a whole separate entity.
Yeah.
It's public water too. That's
Which is
pretty
kind
unique.
of crazy. I was like, is you sure this is right?
Right.
But
So I'm
So
not
how
worried.
high in the mountains is it? Like, is it just?
you're not
Not,
on a tree
not
line,
ridiculous.
but-
I mean, if you know Gerardstown, Gerardstown's kind of up and down, and this is up.
I don't know what the elevation is.
Similar out,
Okay.
but, you
Yeah,
know.
but I guess it's public water.
This is
so
the
it's low
up,
enough.
down.
They got a
water tower up there, I
Should
think.
have looked on your cell footage.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to.
But yeah, I don't know. I've never been asked that on a wholesale before. So.
Yeah.
Elevation of the building.
Yeah, what's the?
I'm just curious. It's like, just look at the valleys. So it's just like,
Yeah, valid question. Okay. But now, if you want more information, we got a fair amount of info about it on MDWB Cash Buyers.
That you go there, you see all the pictures, the videos on there, so you can
Yeah.
kind of figure it out. But
See Bill taking out his Christmas presents, walking
got an
around.
aquarium on the front porch.
If you want more info, you know how to get in touch with us, but we should probably hurry this up
Yeah.
so we can get our main speakers up here. So today we got somebody, if you're not familiar with the Rental Income Podcast, we got the host Dan Lane. He's got, over 300 episodes at this point?
Something.
300 and something.
Yeah.
We've been asking for a year, and we finally got him here
Yeah.
tonight.
And then we kept him on the side of the stage for 40 minutes. All right, so Dan put together a little bit of a panel, right?
Yep.
With Larry and Mike and is there anybody else?
And Naomi.
And Naomi. So they're going to talk a little bit about rental income properties, right?
Yeah.
And more kind of like a forum Q&A type thing.
So
right?
I would guess Dan's asked a lot of good questions, so I think
Yeah.
this is gonna be a good format. He's probably got all the good questions already
Yeah.
stored away in there. So
It's
come on
fun.
up, guys. Come on up. Welcome Dan and Mike and Larry and the mention Naomi. Here, I got you. We got you. Here for you.
We need 4.
Okay.
I got 2 more.
I just set them there. Yeah, we'll turn this thing off.
Can I have it again, Naomi?
Yes.
Thanks. I guess we really don't need. Did you
Yeah,
want
I'll
to
sit
share?
here. Yeah, I'll be sitting this.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want me in?
Yeah, I'll just go right here. Yeah.
You guys want more drinks? Is there any more I can?
I'm gonna need that shirt, Bill.
Okay. What's your right here?
Perfect.
All right. So, so I host the Rental Income Podcast, and when I started the show, I was really looking for the answers to how do you have a successful rental portfolio, like what properties should you buy, how should you manage your properties, and what I've learned after over 300 interviews is there's no one way to do rental properties. Like there's so many different strategies, so many different ways to do it. And so I thought it would be interesting to bring some local investors up and, we can talk rental properties and give our opinions. I think just hearing from different people is a great way to figure out what's the best way for you to do it. So why don't we start with some introductions and then we'll get into the good stuff. So Naomi, you want to go first or?
I'm Naomi Rohr. I'm married to Larry Barkle here. And we live in Ransom, West Virginia, which is Charlestown area. You can tell the other half.
We've got 7 doors. Had a duplex we've had since 2004. But then in the last 2 years, we've jumped into the other five doors, and we did 2 flips in there, and we've got 3 single-family homes and a basement apartment that we did. So that's what we're running now.
Mike Graham?
Yeah.
I'm Mike Grahams. I have a few. I'm mainly a landlord, mainly what I do. So I have a bunch of places, and then I've been doing flips here late. I've been really enjoying the flips. So I do a little bit of both. I tell everybody the rentals keep me fat and happy, and I flip. You know, if I can get Brooke to give me a good deal or something, but he doesn't work with me.
You're trying.
But if I can find a good deal somewhere as far as flipping something, I'll flip something.
Awesome. Well, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to chime in. I'd like to make this interactive.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, so for me, I own 7 rental properties. I've been doing this for 7 years, so my strategy has been to buy 1 property a year. You know, it's a pretty old school, traditional philosophy. I save up 20% and then I buy a property. And my long-term plan is to get everything paid off. I just figure if I have a handful of rental properties and they're all free and clear, like, where's the risk? So that's my plan. So.
Do you have a goal of rentals to get up to, like a number?
You know, I go back and forth on that all the time. But I think, so for right now, like getting to 10 is my next milestone, but I know once I get to 10, I'm gonna wanna go to 20. So like, I don't see myself ever stopping. I love real estate so much. I don't think I'll ever stop buying properties.
Fair.
So, yeah.
This is for the whole panel for everyone to answer, but do you manage yourself or do you use property management?
For me, I use property managers. Yeah, I want to make it as passive as possible, so I use property managers, but I'm the only one up here, but.
Yeah, we all self-manage.
I use her.
I manage all my properties. So.
And you got what, like 60 something?
Yeah. I have about 65, but yeah. So, I don't have a job, so I was able. I got about 17. I think it was about 17. I've been doing this for a long time. I got about 17 rooms, and then I still had a job. And so I quit my job to see if I could live off my income or off my rentals, and then they just started growing.
I kind of have a follow-up question to that. So when you're self-managing and you're on the leasing up phase of it, and you're getting a tenant, and you maybe do an open house, or you have people come meet you there, at what point, how do you handle, like, you know, you want them to go through the application process before you decide, at what point are you collecting the deposit?
What I do is I have them call me. I advertise on Zillow, and then I have them call me, and then I'll set it up about a half hour away. Like, I'll take one day. Here are late rental people have been calling left and right. I mean, if I have an apartment or a house in rent, I'll get easily 50 calls, easily. And that might even be underestimating some. But what I do is, I'll just start with the first couple, and I'll set up a day, whatever day it happens to be, and then I kind of like to set it at a half hour apart. Reason for that, whether it's right, I'm not saying this is the right way, this is what I do. Just like Dan was saying earlier, everybody has their own way of doing things. I don't want somebody to, if everybody comes, if you have an open house and everybody comes at one time, well, there's 15 people here, well, and the application is $35. So, are you going to pay $35 if you see these other people here? You might not. So I kind of like spread them a half hour apart, and it might take me all, 4, 5, 6 hours. But and then the most important thing I do is, let's say I set it up for next Tuesday at, we'll start at 11. Whoever I set appointment 11, 11:30, 12, 12:30, so forth. Whoever I do that with, I make sure that they say, okay, now look, I'll be there, but you gotta call me, let me know for sure you're coming. If you don't call me, I'm not gonna show up. Because more times than not, you'll get, out of every call you get, you'll probably get everybody who shows, and I might only have 5 or 6 show up. And then being that they're separated a half hour apart, then this way, they're all willing to pay the $35 because they haven't really seen the other person. And then it gives me a bigger pool to draw from, you know.
So you collect the application, the $35, and then they apply, and then do you meet them again to pick up a deposit, or at what point?
I'm old school. I don't know how to do computer stuff. So yeah, I take an application with me, piece of paper, they fill it out, I go, run it, check it out and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll decide who I want to pick. If I want to pick you, then I'll call you up and say, hey, are you still interested? Yes, I am. Then, okay, how about we get together and we'll fill. You give me or you'll give me the security deposit, first month's rent. I want it in before you give me the security deposit and first month's rent. Something else that I do, let's say, what's today, the 16th? Let's say somebody moves in on the 18th. Normally you would prorate the rent, you know what I mean by that? Everybody does that. I require the first month's rent and the full security deposit. But then when the 1st of July comes around, they only have
Apartments.com, and they email me or call me, and I go over the rental criteria with them, or and talk about the terms of the lease. If they're still interested and they want to see the place, I'll meet them. We don't have that many, so we don't have the and I don't like to have an open house either. I like to meet the people so I can talk with them and have time with the applicants themselves. And then I have them, if they're still interested, then I have them do the application and the background check and credit check through apartments.com.
Which used to be Cozy.
Yeah.
Which is a pain now. Sort of.
Yeah, I haven't had too much experience with it since it shifted over, but yeah, it was really easy because they paid for it and the background check came to me and it was all nice. We have some tenants that have been there before I was listing with them, and they pay through Venmo, but everybody else pays through cozy/apartments.com.
So do you meet them twice? Once to show them and then once to sign the lease and do the deposit?
Yeah, I give them the keys.
You give them the keys when they sign the lease or when the lease starts?
They have to give me the deposit, first month's rent, and all that. I don't collect the money without giving them the keys. I've not had a problem with that.
No, that's fine.
So.
What is your, and this is for anybody, what is your criteria to evaluate purchasing a rental property?
Purchasing a rental property?
Yeah, so like if you're gonna go buy property number 8 right now, or 9, 10, whatever, and you look at it, you're like, oh, I think I can rent it for this, I'm gonna have to do that. What is the metric you're looking at to say like, okay, that makes sense, that's a deal I'm willing to purchase, or that's too much, or that area's not good, or whatever it may be?
Roughly 70% of ARV minus repair costs or whatever.
Okay.
What I'm hoping to do, and because prices are going up all the time through inflation or whatever, I have to keep adjusting, what that is. We're kind of one house at a time kind of project, because I'm a former contractor and I just like doing a lot of the work myself.
Okay.
So that's just my recreation and time while I'm doing it, but,
And retired.
supposed to be retired and having fun with it.
For me, I use the 1% rule, so like if I'm gonna buy a property for 100,000, I want it to rent for 1,000 a month. I also want it in a good neighborhood, you know, a neighborhood where there's potential for appreciation too. So, you know, I like to try to do a little bit better than that. Like, it's very difficult today to do that, but that's my criteria. Where Mike tries to double me, right? You're looking at the 2% rule.
Yeah, like I said, I've been doing this for a good while. Anybody who knows my story, no, I lost a bunch of properties years ago because of the 1% rule. But now of course, now the 1% rule also includes the mortgage payment. Right now, the mortgage is really good. Dan and I, as far as the interest rates. So Dan and I have been talking a little bit about that. So I might be wanting to come down a little bit closer to 1%, but I'm not really looking for any more rentals, so I gotta have a 2%. I gotta have something closer to 2%. In other words, if I can buy something for 100,000, it's gotta rent for 2,000 a month.
Yeah, it depends on where, like, I don't know where your rentals are, Dan, where,
Like in Jefferson County.
yeah, so I mean, downtown Hagerstown versus Jefferson
Right,
County,
so,
it's like.
yeah, for Hagerstown, I'd wanna be closer to 2%.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, again, it depends on where in Hagerstown.
Right.
Property I bought off of you guys, I think is a nice property. And,
Yeah,
but
that's
I'm
not
I'm
downtown.
actually getting over 2% on that one too. So that's the reason why I bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the north end of town, of Hagerstown, north end of Hagerstown.
But can you explain the logic why Hagerstown is closer to 2%?
Just because the properties are older, you gotta deal with the city, you got a little bit tougher tenant base. So all of those reasons, they're gonna tear it up, the properties are older, there's gonna be more maintenance, the city's gonna levy more hardship on you.
You
Those are
got
the
the
reasons.
licensing fee, you got the MDE fee, you got your city tax, you got your county tax.
It's
So
in
there's more hands
It's
in
in
your
Maryland.
pocket. Yeah, it's Maryland.
I think if you bought a 1% deal in downtown Hagerstown, I feel like you're gonna lose money. Like, I don't know how you can make money on that.
Yeah, and I've sold some stuff like that, and, you know, I've told them, but they end up having to really cut corners and do the work themselves and do all the property management themselves. So you have to factor all that stuff in, which it sounds like you're already doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna say, if you need a loss.
Hey, I run a film production company. I can K1 you your investment back once we spend the money also. As a loss.
So a lot of it depends on location,
Yeah.
and you're kind of looking more for like an equity position right out the gate, right?
Yeah.
You said getting it 70% ARV.
Yeah, on the last two rentals we did, we're in a great position on that, and then,
Is there anything that automatic disqualifier, you don't care how good of a deal it is, you won't buy it because of X?
I really don't like rough neighborhoods. I like something that I feel totally comfortably, and then I like it fixed up, so I'd be able to stay in it. It may not be as well as my house, but it's pretty nice.
It's got running water.
It's got running water, yeah. So,
Rough neighborhoods are interesting because I feel like for a regular person, if you go into a rough neighborhood, the numbers are gonna look really good on paper, but it just never works out. But if you really specialize in that area, you can make a lot of money. I mean, I've had people on the podcast that have made millions of dollars buying properties in D-class areas, and they know how to manage them, and they know how to make money out of it. But you know, for me, if I tried to go into that area, I know that it would not work out for me. So.
well, I bought one off of Brooks that was in really rough shape, and it needed $3,000 of tree trimming, and major cleaned out and all that kind of stuff. And then the lot across the street, which was an abandoned house, sold, and I told Naomi, thank goodness somebody else bought that, because it was gonna be my next project. That's turned into a disaster zone, but we got good tenants in there and
Good rents too.
yeah. So it's making good money, and it's fixed up now, and it's rolling along, and
Yeah, a question. So when you, for lease documents, right, do you use templates that you get from some specific place, say for different states, if you have in different, is that, or did you like Google something, just randomly put things together as a?
For me, like my property managers handle all that, so I'm not involved in any of that, but,
Did you say as far as raising rents?
No. So like
Your lease agreement.
Yeah, lease agreement. Like where did you get it originally? Like,
Oh, where did I get it?
Yeah.
I have properties in 3 different states, and so I called 3 different lawyers. I paid $60 for each one of them. I thought it was worth it.
Yeah.
But I have a real good friend who has way more than what I got, and he went over to Staples, bought just a basic rental program, and that's all he uses.
do you update your leases? Cause I know like they're always updating the laws every year, so.
I have updated my Maryland lease.
Okay.
I recently bought new Maryland leases.
Okay.
Because I kind of know what the laws are. The biggest thing now, like with Maryland, if cops are called to your place so many times, then they start finding the landlord, and I don't want to have to pay for my tenant who can't keep his nose clean or whatever. So now there's a new clause that my lawyer got for me that I have in there.
The crime-free thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the crime-free housing ordinance in the city of Hagerstown.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to crack down on the slumlords. but
And why they're
at the end
making
of the
it-
day, you can't control
Yeah.
certain people.
You can't evict them either.
Yeah, you can.
That's not true.
You
I
can
just
now.
evicted somebody.
You can now. You can now.
Okay.
Yeah, you can now. They will call the cops will come 3 times from what I understand. If they come to your property 3 times, then they will start your fine. If they come 4 times, the fine increases, and so they start. But I have in my lease that after the second time, I evict them.
Oh, beautiful.
So.
I just want to make a quick statement. That you guys are talking about the 1%, 2%. This is really for the room. I know you guys up there know this, but if you have a certain rent, like a range in your mind for a certain area from years of experience, that's not the accurate number anymore. You mentioned I can't get that 1%. I would challenge a lot of the deals. I think that we're able to get more rent than a lot of people would think. It is, and we have a couple hundred units, in these different counties. They're all going up drastically. Not 3%, not 10%. I mean, I probably shouldn't say it on camera. But it's good for our owner. One of them, we had a 33% increase. I got $1,700 for a house on Mulberry. I'll repeat that.
Wow. Whoa.
I went to my team. I was like, "Hey guys, come here. Let's talk about it. It's a gorgeous house. It's huge, but it's on Mulberry, and we got 1,700. So it's just one example, but we have a lot of other ones where the rents are drastically increasing. Because you said it right. You're like, I get 50 inquiries. That tells you that you're under market. Okay, you shouldn't get 50 qualified. I would raise the rent 100%.
Or if no one ever leaves. No one's ever like they're staying. Might be time to reevaluate. And we're just doing that with our whole portfolio. Up $100 a month.
We're good.
That door.
Right. If the market went up 33%, why aren't your rents up 33%? Right. So
Can I ask you
Yeah.
guys? I don't know. I guess I'm supposed to be asked, but if you have tenants who stayed there like I said, I have a lot of places, and I have a lot of tenants who've been with me 10, 15 plus years. I don't know if I've raised a lot of those tenants. But back when I bought it, I got the 2% rule, and it was making me money then, so it's making me money now. And because if you raise them, now this is my philosophy, and I'm totally wrong probably, but if you raise the rent, okay, now they can, you were getting for a 3-bedroom, you were getting 900, now you raise it to 12. You can get 1,200 for a 3-bedroom pretty easily, but they may not be able to afford that. They may not be able to see that, and so now they're going to move out. They move out, so now I think you spend a minimum of $2,500 to $3,000 fixing the place back up again before you get it re-rented.
Right, so you get that back in 12 months in that example. But no, we're, just to be clear, so we're not doing that on renewals, but when they are vacant or, new to us, I really want to emphasize it. The numbers you've had in your head from a year ago are not accurate.
Yeah.
You can 100% get, not 100%, but you can get more.
Yeah.
My leases, I started putting, at the end of the term, if it goes month to month, I started putting like plus $50, even though it's not $950 anymore, now it's $1,000. And then if they want to sign another 12-month lease, I'll negotiate $25 increase versus the month to month of $50.
Good.
Just to have something built in.
That's good.
Starting point.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do any of you guys just like set something that's tied to like inflation, like historically it's like been 100% if you look over the last 2 years? Like one thing I've started doing on leases is just saying, I'll increase up to 5%, and that's in there, and know that. And it's usually I'll pop in 2%.
I don't do that. Like I'm like Mike, where if I have a good tenant, I don't like to increase their rent. Maybe a little bit, but if they're paying on time and they're a good tenant, like I really think you're gonna make more money by keeping a tenant, even if it's a little bit under rent, than to pay the turnover costs and have vacancy.
It's also those headaches. I mean, if somebody's been there with you for a long time, 3, 4, 5 years, and they've not given you any trouble, I tell you honestly, that's from, I have a few properties, but that's the reason why I started flipping. The rentals got boring. And so, now don't get me wrong, I don't put them back and never do nothing, but so I started flipping just because I wanted something to do. So.
Just to play devil's advocate on that, most people do not move on a 3% rent increase.
Probably true.
Yes. It is true. Most, a very high percentage, good tenant, bad, whatever, we wouldn't offer it to a bad tenant, but a good tenant is typically not going to move over, $30 a month, right? What's the moving cost? How much in thousands does it cost for them to move?
They gotta find a.
Right, first you can't even find one right now, right, at that rent. So, I would disagree with not increasing rent.
Especially now.
Because that's
right now.
Yeah.
Just like with rentals.
Yeah. There's nothing available.
Like it's a business, but there's a threshold, and you know that person, but not increasing rent for years, I don't think it's a great business.
I would agree with that. I don't do it, but I agree with that.
Are there any sort of, I guess we're assuming we're past COVID, are there any rent increase controls anywhere?
Yes.
Not that I know of. No.
Maryland had it, yeah, on renewals, we could only increase a certain percent. That's what you asked about, right? Was
Yeah.
Rent control, yeah, no, we were just talking to this gentleman back here about DC, that's a whole nightmare.
City as well.
Well, like for example, we have some rentals in Montgomery County, and they have these volunteer increase maximums. So the word volunteer sounds a little right, because volunteer or mandatory. So, but like for example, for 2021, it was 1.4%, and it wasn't clear to me. There was some sort of gossip that they were actually like, because of COVID, it wasn't voluntary, but I wasn't clear if they can actually, like the county can enforce that, or the tenant can take it to court or whatever. So I wasn't sure what the situation is now, like say the rest of Maryland or Washington County.
This just came up because I was having this conversation with my team and asking them to increase rent for our owners, and they reminded me that there is a cap right now. There is a rent control. I don't know when it ends. It may end at the end of June. I have to ask my team.
So is that like a COVID thing?
Yes, it came up with that. And then of course Section 8 they have which is a whole different topic, but they always have a maximum increase that they'll do. Like a unit is worth X amount of dollars. But yes, there was, I think, I'm not gonna say federal, but I know Maryland had it, 100%. Hopefully it ends at the end of June with all the other bullshit.
Well said.
I mean, you guys are all thinking it, right?
where we try to run at is Greencastle, Waynesboro, Chambersburg, maybe North Hagerstown, staying out of the city, because in our minds, our perception in the city is it's more tenant friendly. We don't want to kind of get involved with that if our hands are going to be tied. But those of you that rent in the city, I guess kind of talk with us about that as far as renting in the city, your renters that you have, are there major issues that are there? Speak to that.
We're not in the city.
Yeah, Mike's,
Not in the city.
Mike's probably the one that can answer that.
I have 2 places within the city, 2 units, apartment, well, or 6 places, 8 places, but,
I'd like 26, no more than that.
I had one place in a, you know, we always talk about the ABCD properties. You know, that's the grade, you kind of like grade it that way. Well, I had a Z property. And trust me, I was glad to get rid of it, because there was all kinds of headaches. I was always being called over there, always, all that kind of stuff. But I have probably a C property. One, it's 2 units. The one upstairs is Section 8, and you know, they always pay, and they always do an inspection every year, which I really don't mind too much, because I raise Section 8s every year. But then the lady downstairs, actually she's pretty new. She's just moved in about 6 or 7 months ago. Don't seem, you know, what I see with the city, if you're willing to work with them, if they call you up and if they give you a letter saying, hey, look, you got a couch sitting on your back porch or something like that, just gonna take care of it. It's no big deal, you know. I mean, yeah, there's more headaches for, you know, the city is more involved than you know, the other places. Like I said, I'm in Virginia, West Virginia, and Maryland, and Maryland is more involved, but you do what you gotta do. I don't mind it.
Yeah, the rental inspections, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's good because they get in there and you can be like, listen, it's not me, it's the city, you know, they're looking out for you. But it allows you to get into your properties on a routine basis. And the great thing about the Section 8 ones are, if there is a tenant responsible item, they have to fix it.
That's right.
Or if they go to move out and they don't do what they're supposed to, they won't get their moving voucher. And I don't know what the current wait list is, but there for a while, the wait list was so long it was closed.
I think it's still is.
So if they lost their voucher, they couldn't even get back on the wait list. Therefore, when they did the inspection, if there were issues, you had some teeth to make sure they did their part.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, do they nickel and dime you on stupid stuff? I think so. However, you're also typically getting slightly above market and it's guaranteed money.
Yeah.
So I know the question wasn't about Section 8, but I think the Section 8 rentals in the city, not in the war zone areas, like on the peripheral area, if you will, I think they're fine if you're willing to deal with some of the maneuvering. But the maneuvering inside the city, I don't feel like it's that much more than the county. One of the biggest issues I see is the taxes inside the city. You got city and county, whereas the county, you don't have city taxes, obviously. Hagerstown specifically,
yeah.
So there's money to be made, but you can still find, you gotta look, 2% deals occasionally in Hagerstown City, not in the war zone areas. Like, I passed on a 3% deal on Jonathan Street.
I would do it.
And I don't care if it was a 6% deal. I would never deal with that area. It's like you said, there's people that make money in those D areas.
Right.
That is fine, and I'm okay with carrying a gun, but I don't want to have to carry it just to go over to one of my properties. You know? And that one you would.
Yeah.
So it's like, no thanks. That part of the city, I would agree.
I agree. That was my Z property. It actually was on Ray Street, but still, that was my Z property. And I'm just glad I'm kind of a big guy.
Yeah. When you guys buy properties, do you just go in there and just spruce them up, or do you try and pre-address a lot of maintenance issues so that you're not nickel and dimed hopefully every month?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Like, I think that when you buy a property, you should really take care of anything that might be coming up, because, you know, if you look at it from the tenant's point of view, if every couple of weeks they're calling because something's broken, they're not going to be happy. They're not going to want to stay. So yeah, I think it's really important to have the property in really good condition. What about you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right?
I imagine as the contractor, you probably, that's part of your thing.
Yeah, I can't stand leaving old galvanized pipe in there. If there's any way I can get it out.
Yeah.
And I want the doors to seal and the windows to close, and, you know, the heating system to be decent. I mean, to be working, that sort of thing. So we try and get it in good shape.
We have one rental property that it about killed us to leave the flooring, which was still in decent shape, but not really very pretty. But, you know.
But it was still functional.
It's functional, yeah, and
There was some sort of laminate in about 3 places of something the size of a $50 had peeled, the surface had peeled off. It's the only thing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's like put a rug over it or something, but, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good question. Do you allow pets?
I do. Yeah, I don't have a problem with pets. I think when you take pets, I think you get a better tenant sometimes that is more likely to stay. And, you know, getting a tenant that's going to stay long term is really my game. Like, I really want those long term tenants. So yeah, I have no problem with pets.
we have different kinds of properties. So in the single family homes, we've allowed pets. In the duplex, we don't allow it, but that's student rental also. So and before the students started renting it, we did have families in there, and the families that we allowed pets destroyed the place. So
Do you care which breeds?
That's me.
you know,
My apartments, I don't allow, because it's just an apartment. And I wouldn't want to do that to the dog or whatever. But yes, I'm picky about what type of breed I get. Like
Well, a lot of insurance companies restrict what type of breed you can have.
yeah. Like Rottweilers and all that kind of stuff. And now I do also understand that if it is a true service dog, you don't have no choice. You have to take a service dog. If they come with you and say, "Hey, here's my paper showing that Fido here is a service dog."
Yeah, I see what it answered about it. We had a presentation about that one time.
So do you charge more for the pets then, or they just can bring Fido along?
No, we charge more. I don't add it onto the rent, but it's
Every month?
No, it's a one-time charge, but also there's a pet fee and a pet deposit.
What do you mean by pet fee?
Well, if they want to have a pet, they give me a non-refundable amount.
Okay.
And then they also have a deposit that they could possibly get back.
Oh, the regular security deposit.
Yeah, an additional, they have a security deposit, but they also have a pet deposit.
So you have a security deposit, a pet deposit, and another pet fee? Do you? Oh.
So when I built my house, my wife and I had 2 dogs. They were both 65 pounds, non-aggressive breeds, right? And we both had good jobs, like we were a good resident.
Well, that's questionable.
What's that? So we're looking for places that accept pets and then more than one, and at 65 pounds, we didn't have a lot to pick from. So I think we rented a townhouse over by the hospital, and it was like $1,200. By the time we had the dogs and stuff added, our security deposit was, $1,500, and then we had a refundable pet deposit of like $500, and then they charged us, I think, $75 a month for the dogs, each one. So when I moved out, I got everything back, but I steamed my carpets and everything. I was only there 8 months, but it's one of those, like, goes to show you that, well, there are responsible pet owners. Like, we had to provide documentation, like the vet, the shop records. Most responsible animal owners have that. The ones that are running a dog ring out back probably don't, right?
Right.
But what I'm getting at is, like, we didn't have a lot of options, and we paid an ultra premium for that. And telling my wife we were moving and not bringing the dogs was not an option.
Yeah.
So, you know, I definitely think for the right property, and if you do your homework, you could capitalize on the folks that do have an animal.
I charged one time $300 non-refundable pet deposit per pet, so I would have just charged you $600.
Where were you?
On Ray Street.
Yeah, on Ray
So a follow-up question on that, because mindset, I just leased a place to pet owner, great pet, great family. But I was thinking, do I do non-refundable? Do I do monthly fee on top of the rent? Or do I do a refundable? And I'm trying to go down this rabbit hole, which is the best one.
Yes.
I went to refundable thinking, you know, nice chunk of money you should get back.
You're incentivized to leave it.
Yeah.
Versus if you know you're not getting it back.
But I also really wanted that money.
Yeah, and here's the thing with refundable, then you have to prove how much you're gonna give back. Like, it's like a security deposit, just charge them a fee, collect it up front. They're not getting any money back, and then we charge like a monthly, if there's more than one animal, we charge monthly on top of the fees.
What do you
Fee
charge?
per animal, and then.
How much do you charge?
Yeah.
Depends, if it's a cat, you know, or for a dog, it's usually depends. Like $25 extra is usually a flat fee, $25 extra.
I got rid of the deposits, and for each animal, I'm charging $25 a month. So that's just money to me. I don't have to worry, hold money back, or hold a deposit, or some other account.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I just take extra rent.
Yeah.
And deal with it at the end.
Because they're gonna fight you, they're gonna fight you for that.
Yeah, I kinda like that idea too. And you never had any trouble, any, oh, well, I can't pay that.
And then they get used to that payment, and then it's no longer an issue.
The dog doesn't even have a job, how's it gonna pay rent?
Somehow he does. I don't know how it happens. He
Well,
gets
he
the
does
money.
support animal that it does have a job.
Yeah, he doesn't have to pay.
What happens when they sneak one in?
That's a
That's
larger
a big,
fee.
yeah.
Eviction or
eviction.
larger.
They broke
the
fee.
lease.
Eviction should be in the lease.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't like it when you had 10 goldfish, I charged $300 for a fish.
Depending on how big that fish tank is.
That's a good point.
You get the little thing in the Ziploc bag at the fair, you know it's gonna die. I mean, no big deal. But you got somebody with a 400-gallon freshwater salt tank thing.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, on the second floor, of course.
One of the first
Yeah.
rentals I did, I had somebody move other people in, and I learned my lesson. So on my lease, I have exactly the names of the people that are gonna live there.
Yeah.
Plus the dogs, so it's all on there, and this is what the lease is. Anything additional, if you wanna bring somebody in, I gotta run them through the background checks. We gotta do a rider onto the lease, because, you know, new boyfriend comes or goes. And so I had that happen recently, and I said, you're gonna have to go through the background check, and they just said, forget it, we're not gonna do it. So the guy didn't move in. But have that on there to make sure you know exactly who's in it, and then if they do have somebody that shows up on there, then you can get rid of them, because they're not on the lease.
But, so, like, what if they say, well, that's just my, brother here for a
Yeah, well,
visit and.
I think the lease says something like you can have relatives stay for a week or a weekend or whatever. That's just normal.
Mine can stay up to
But if
15
they're-
days.
Yeah, something like that. But if they've moved in, that's not what you want.
And the way you can find that out, look at the mail.
Because what could happen is they could be living there for 2 years, and then the rest of the people on the lease move out, and then you got this squatter type person in there. So you don't want those people in there.
That actually happened to me. Good old Ray Street. I actually evicted the guy. I evicted the guy, but he had a girlfriend, and she stayed.
Yeah.
How'd you get rid of her?
She had squatter rights, and so I had to go through evicting her also. We had a totally separate
How long
thing.
did that take?
Oh, I can get people out within like 30, 45 days.
Really?
It's no trouble at all. You gotta remember, rent's due on the 1st, lay it on the 5th, you go down on the 6th. Then you get down to the courthouse on the 6th. If you don't do that, it can take longer. But
Do you work with people if they're late, like if maybe they had car problems and?
if they've been with me for a long time, but like if you just moved in, within a year, what I do is, okay, hey, you got car problems, I understand, but I'm still gonna go ahead and start the eviction process. I can stop it at any time, because as you know, you go down the 6th, but you won't get a court date until 22nd, 23rd, something like that. That gives them a whole month to be able to get their car fixed and pay me.
Right.
And if they can't do it within that much time, then they'll come up. Because I've also had people tell me, hey, on the 6th I can't do it, but I'll get paid on the 15th. 15th comes around. Oh, by the way, this here happened, so now I'll pay you on the 25th. And so now I'm a whole month behind time.
Right.
So I can stop the eviction anytime I want.
Right.
And I tell them that. So.
You charge them the eviction
Oh
fee
yeah.
once you file?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a really good.
I like that. I usually wait to the 10th, but I'll go start doing it on the 6th.
We'll see you down there.
What's your success rate of collecting back rent owed from after an eviction? Do you pursue it?
I do not pursue it. Well, I take that back. I do. It really depends. It depends on what property it is, what kind of property it is. If it was down on Ray Street, but I have been able to pursue several. And what I do is I go through the lawyer. Well, let me back up. I garnished a lady a long time ago. I garnished somebody's wages. This was down in Winchester, and she owned. She worked at Walmart. And so I went to court and I got garnished her wages, and so they were going to start taking the money out of her paycheck. Walmart was taking the money out every month, and then I came back 6 months later, or however many, whenever it was supposed to be all paid up. She quit her job like a month or so. So I only had, a few hundred, maybe $100 or whatever. So I don't garnish wages anymore. I just go ahead and I put in a lien against somebody, and it took me 3 years to get all that money back at one time, because they wanted to buy something, and you can't buy anything until they clear the lien with me. And then
You get a lien against the person?
mhm.
Is that like is it in all states or just is it?
Yes, in all states. Yeah, you can put a lien against. Well, let me see. I know from Maryland and Virginia. I've never had to do it in West Virginia.
And
So I
that
don't
like
know.
hits their credit report if they want to buy a house?
I don't know if it goes against the credit because
It's a judgment, right?
It's a judgment. It's a judgment. So, it's a judgment, but still they have to pay it off before they can buy the house or buy anything on time, anything they want to buy.
It's on their credit report.
I guess it does go on the credit report. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't know about that. I don't know. So, but yeah, that's what I do. How about you guys?
Yeah, I've never had to do that. I've only done one eviction, and like the guy left, and it wasn't a big deal. But I know someone that's gotten judgments, and he gets paid. But if they switch jobs, I mean, like your person did, there's not much you can do.
Yeah. Somebody asked a question back. What do you look at as far as when you're getting ready to rent to somebody? I now want somebody who has at least a 670 credit score. I want somebody to have a job for at least 3 years. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same job. They can go from one job, but I don't want to have any time in between the jobs. So it doesn't have to be necessarily the same job. Then I also check with the landlord. No, where they're at now. But I think it's important if they have a job for at least 3 years, they're going to want to stay there. It's something that they don't want to go try to find from job here to job here to job here. 6 months in between here, 2 months here. That's just me.
Do you rent to people that were previously evicted, or is that an automatic disqualification with you?
No evictions and no trouble with the law. Those two things. Thank you very much.
Ever, or how far back do you go? What if you got a DUI?
Well, now DUIs I don't care about.
Right.
Yeah, DUIs I'll rent to you.
So non-violent felonies.
Yeah, it has to be some kind of violence, something or something like that. That's just me here again. Everybody has their own thing.
What if I bring you dinner once a week?
Now you're talking to me. You know me, don't you?
So I have a question to maybe to everybody. So if you want to grow your portfolio by basically, you know, I guess the way you're doing it, so you know, getting mortgages, so you know, paying, setting up money for a down payment, right? So you're growing it, and so in terms of mortgages and insurance, is like as you get more and more properties, are you gonna run into problems like getting insurance, getting mortgages?
So with Fannie and Freddie, where you're going to get the best rates, you can get 10 loans in your name, and then if you're married, you can get 10 loans in your spouse's name. So that's 20 properties right there. After that, you're going to probably have to go to some kind of commercial financing or some kind of specialty lender. But right now, I mean, the way the lending is right now, there's really no limit to how many loans you can get. Like you can find the financing. You also have the opportunity to get seller financing. I mean, there's a million ways to finance properties. I mean, Mike's got 60 of them, and you know, you did a lot of seller financing for your portfolio. So yeah, so I mean, there's always a way to finance the property. You can get private lenders. So if you just get a little bit creative, I think I don't think you'll have a problem.
Another thing I did was I got a gang loan. I put like 5 properties. I had 5 different mortgages. I put it all in one loan. So now I only got 1 loan instead of 5.
But then if you want to sell one of those 5, then it becomes...
They give, when I first do it, they kind of like a price to each one of those properties. So like if I originally sold it or did it for $100,000 for property A, and I ended up selling a property 10 years later, sell property A for $150. They'll deduct however much my mortgage payment's been on that. They figure it all up for you, and then you know I'll get the difference. I don't have to put it all in one loan.
Is it the bank or is it some?
Oh, this is a bank, City National here.
It's a portfolio loan, right?
Yeah,
They
portfolio.
weight the properties based on ARV in different areas, depending on what you're trying to take out of your portfolio. So you can't sell all your A properties and keep all your D properties in the portfolio loan.
I had a question, something I've not tried, just kind of came to my mind here. We buy always with cash and then refinance, but I've only ever used a refi on a commercial with a commercial lender. Is it possible to do the refinance with a traditional 30-year note for an investment property?
Is it in your name? It's gotta be in your name.
So I could do it in my own name?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do 30-year fixed in my LLC.
Yeah, we just did that.
It's like 6% interest though. It's a little higher. I do 6%.
No money down though, like I just want to refinance and replenish.
If it appraises for it,
Yeah.
you know, you might go on the Burr effect, buy it, fix it up a little bit, and try to
I
resell
just
it.
have not used a 30-year traditional.
I've never had a commercial loan.
Huh.
All my stuff has been.
And it's a fixed rate, yeah, 30-year.
Yeah.
That's how all our properties are.
Yeah.
Is that what someone wants? I use a lender. He's a broker, so he does all the.
I'm getting 20 in 5 years.
It's not Crystal or a big group.
It's quicker.
But a lot of, I'm talking to a guy down in Florida that does it too.
Do you guys have any advice on how to estimate rehab costs?
This is the guy you want to talk to.
No, I've been out of the contracting business long enough, but I'm sort of square one. So I just sit down on the paper and start throwing numbers together. And years ago, I learned in contracting, if you got to have an idea what the numbers are, but the most important thing is not to miss something. So if you if you're putting your whole bid together and you miss the electrician, that hurts you a whole lot more than saying the electrician's $2,500 and he actually is $3,500. So if you can, I just try and I've got some checklists and stuff to make sure I'm trying to put a number to everything I'm gonna need. And I'm kind of ballparking that. And Naomi comes along and says, you gotta put $20,000 on top of that. And she's closer than I am, but we get it worked out. So, and I mean, Mike can walk through a house and with his experience, and when he comes out of the house, he's got a number in his head that works for him, and I'm getting to be that way to where, okay, we're working in the $30,000 range or the $40,000 range or the $20,000 range, and I trust that enough that I can put my numbers together to go with it.
But if you're not comfortable, get a contractor. Call him up and say, hey, can I meet you at house 123 Main Street? And you walk through it and tell me what you think it'll cost.
I just did that tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We were using a number that we had figured out. Cost per square foot plus, does it need a roof? Does it need an HVAC system? Does it need all windows? So these other bundle of things that we added on, but we go through and just basically say, all right, well, this times the square foot plus these things, and that was just our average, so it could move quicker.
But not counting the windows or roof or HVAC.
We'd add those bigger things on.
If you walk through and it was just like a cosmetic carpet, vanities, this, that, the other thing, you'd be like, oh, it's this much per square foot, which right now, the way materials are, that's a little off.
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh, I need a HVAC, does it have ductwork? No, all right, that's 5,500. Does it need ductwork? There's another 5. How many windows? All right, count, times about 300, whatever. And then that way you could kind of add on your big ticket items and have a pretty good idea of where you were going.
We could walk out of the house in like 10 minutes, have a ballpark number that was solid.
Yeah.
Or at least allow you to know if you're able to make it work. Right?
To see if we can buy it
$5
at the right
grand or
price.
whatever, but because nothing ever comes up.
Over 5 grand.
Mike, so after you
That's how it works.
quit your job, how did you keep acquiring after the 17 units? I think you said you quit your job then?
Yeah, after I had 17. I wasn't sure if I could quit my job and just live off of my rentals. And so for about 6 months or so, I just kept on working. After I got to, okay, I'm going to quit. So 6 months from now, I just kept on working and put my paycheck away and just lived off of the rentals for a little while. And then, hey, this is working. Bye-bye.
So were you still able to acquire pretty quickly after?
Yeah, it actually got easy because I had a track record with my rentals. I mean, I didn't just buy one and then the next year I was buying them for like 4 or 5 years. So I the bank saw that I had an income coming in.
And 2 years ago, I retired and I sold a building in Shepherdstown that I had been in with some other partners. I took that money and invested into rental property, but then in theory, I didn't have any income. Then we just went back and refinanced one of the Burr houses and pulled all the equity out of it to get ready for the next one. The bank's working with me based on my 30-year history with them and just knowing me and what I've done in the past and all that sort of thing. So there's ways to work it. I mean, either you've got equity in your portfolio or you've still got a job or you've got the history of being a landlord that they can work with.
You always heard build your team. Your bank should be one of your teams. A lawyer, and if you have a relationship like he does with his banker, he walks in, how much money you want?
I know currently we're spending like $500 to $7,500 per property. So it adds up, I mean, when you're buying multiple properties a year. So that's, kind of prolonging quitting the job just because of that. So that's what I was wondering.
So, Larry, well, I think Dan, you said your goal is to get like 10 and just pay them all off, right? So would your goal then to be do like the equity harvesting like Larry just talked about? So like when it's paid off, you refinance out 50% loan to value, tax free, and then just kind of rinse and repeat?
You know, I haven't really thought that far ahead, but yeah, I imagine I'll probably do something along those lines. But yeah, it's just kind of a balancing act right now between trying to pay down the mortgages and trying to save for down payments. So, you know, it's like they're both important to me. You know, I want to keep buying, but I also want to pay down those mortgages too. So,
Dan, so you've had over 300 conversations with people on podcasts. Yeah. What are some of the, say there's a couple different things that all the people that you've interviewed are doing that's like a common thread of success through all those people that are achieving big things?
You know, it's interesting because, you know, it's kind of like I said at the beginning, like everything works, but everything doesn't work at the same time. It's like you really gotta kind of figure out what you want to do and like what you're comfortable with. Where, you know, we have, like I had a guy on the show that he just started buying rentals a couple of years ago, and he's got I think 60 properties now, and he's profiting $15,000 a month. You know, he is just a machine. But then, you know, we have other people that, you know, they were maybe even, but we had a few people that were saving up money and they would only buy with cash. And, you know, at first they started off really slow, and as they got more properties, they kind of picked up their cadence and they were buying more and more properties. So really there's so many different ways that you can do rentals. I think you just gotta look at what your skills are, what your situation is, and like what you're interested in.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how fast you want to get there.
Yeah.
There's a strategy for
Right.
it.
Well, I tell new investors, I said, look, I like doing all the work, but there's people in this business that never pick up a hammer. They just do it all on the computer, and you know, it's all been flipped and done and rented and that sort of thing. I said, just figure out the angle that works for you, and everybody just has a different take on it, and it works, and you know, then they make it work for them. And you know, we all learned after the first house you knew a whole lot more than when you started, and by the third house you started to have a little bit of an idea of what works and doesn't work, and everybody's afraid to jump in there, but that's what
fail forward, right?
Well, it's that education that you got to get just by doing it, and no matter how you try and talk somebody into it, until they get into it, it's that's how they learn.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice for anyone that's maybe on the fence about buying your first properties. Mm-hmm. You got to just start. There's only so much you can learn, but you know, once you actually get out there and buy your first property, you're going to learn so much more. It gets so much easier the more you do it.
And you won't learn it without doing it.
Right.
Somebody can sit and tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, but until you actually get out there and do it, you won't really understand it.
Right.
Dan, what provoked you to start a podcast?
You know, selfishly, it was for myself. So what happened is my wife and I, we had lived in our house for a while, and we wanted to get a new house. And I wasn't sure if I was going to sell our old house or rent it out. And when I looked at the numbers, I saw that I could rent it out and profit about $1,000 a month. So I'm like, well, you know, I'd always been interested in rentals, so I'm like, you know, let me do this. So I found a tenant, and the guy asked if he could pay 6 months up front. And so I'm like, yeah, sure. So I'm like, wow, I just paid $6,000. Like, this is awesome. I'm like, how do I do this again? And you know, I was looking for guidance from people that were successful, and I didn't know about meetup groups like this. There weren't any podcasts that were geared to people like me that were just getting started. You know, I wasn't interested in syndications or flipping houses. I just wanted to buy rentals. So I started the Rental Income Podcast just as a platform to meet successful landlords. And I just started doing the show thinking, maybe I'll do 5 or 6 episodes and I'll figure this out. And, here we are 7 years later, and it's turned into a real business. So it's,
podcast called again?
what's that?
Podcast called?
It's called Rental Income Podcast.
Rental Income.
Yeah.
Is it on Spotify?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah,
check it out. It's
Definitely
good.
For sure.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
Mike's been on a couple of times. It's it's a really, really interesting show.
When you're consistent about stuff like that, it takes you in places you never thought of.
Right.
What's come of that because of what you put out there?
Just I think the people that I've been able to connect with, it's like, I know it's like I have so many different mentors, and it's like my listeners do too. They have a mentor that they can virtually connect with over the internet. That people that are good role models. So yeah, it's really been life changing. It's really been pretty awesome.
And you listen to it, and some new idea goes through your head that I hadn't have thought about that before, but
yeah,
you can figure out a way to throw it into what you're trying to do or how you're thinking about it or whatever.
Yeah.
One of his the people that he interviewed does student rentals, and we were just talking about renting to athletes at the schools, and his landlord said that he gets to know the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an idea that I never thought of. Talking to the coach so that you get the coach in your pocket too, to help kind of.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. The students are graduating every year, and the coach says, "Oh, this kid would be good." And the coach is basically recruiting tenants for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he can hold them accountable.
Right.
Right. You go in trouble at practice.
Yeah.
But it's little nuggets like that. You pick up one little thing, and it can pay dividends.
Right, absolutely.
Over the course of a year.
Yeah.
5
And
years.
it's like I feel like on every show, there's one little thing that I pick out that is it's like a good little tip.
So when's the book coming out?
I don't know. I've thought about that, but that's
so many good nuggets you got.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I kind of like doing the podcast. That's just kind of my thing. I don't do YouTube or anything. I just do the podcast. So.
Any other questions?
You guys have anything else you want to say, or?
Give one parting word of wisdom. What do you guys think would be something that they should know?
I got one. All right. So if anyone has a service animal, or a tenant that has a service animal, there's a website called petscreening.com that will verify that the service animal is legit, that they have the paperwork. And so you can just refer when the tenant says they have a service animal, refer them to petscreening.com. They have to pay some kind of fee, and then Pet Screening will do the background check, make sure that it's a legitimate service animal, and then they either approve it or deny it. So it's not it's not on you anymore. So that's a great website.
So they would generate a report saying, yes, this animal. That screening says my animal is actually
right. So if they're not approved, if it's not a legitimate service animal, then you can just say, hey, if you have a problem, talk to them. It's out of my hands.
So
I
it's
can't.
actually common that people kind of snuck in with a non-service animal?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah.
Good to know. It's not really like, oh sure, come on in. Like 2 Dobermans in there. That's what I'm saying.
I would actually recommend just using that period.
Whether they have pets or not.
Correct, if they are, would like to apply with a pet, because they will verify vaccinations, photos, and much more, and they'll actually rank, it's a PAW system, a 5 PAW system, So if you wanted to get creative and make more money, Bill, you can have a system that says if it comes back as a 1, I'm gonna charge you a higher monthly pet rent. Because a puppy is not the same as a 4-year-old mature dog, as an example, right? So, yeah, that'll actually come back with, as you know, 1 to 5 calls, and then you can, but you have all the records, and if they give you more, if they give you the vaccinations, and they give you the photos and all that, they can have a better score and ultimately a lower pet rent. So we actually use that for every pet.
Oh, cool.
And to your point, the applicant pays, not you.
Right.
And it'll weed out anybody who really doesn't have that service.
Right.
Which is perfect. Yeah.
One of the things I've learned is to have a list of criteria that your tenants have to meet if they're applying, and stick to that. Don't waver, and share it with them, so they know what the criteria is. That's another way to self-select or deselect.
How long is your list?
About 2 pages.
I have 5 questions that I asked over the phone, and it weeds a lot of people out.
Yeah.
Okay.
1995. Just kidding.
Well,
He wants the check.
once they get past the phone interview, then I send them the
Yeah, the phone interview where you can knock a lot of people out.
that's,
And I got lists from Meetup, from podcasts, and from like Bigger Pockets, things like that. And the lease, I did the same thing. I kind of put leases together from those.
I think something that's really cool is that you guys are buying rentals. You and Larry, that is awesome. That is awesome. I don't know how old you are, but I think it's awesome. You're talking about bigger pockets, you're talking about listening to podcasts. That is a growth mindset.
Yeah.
You should be applauded.
True.
for
It's
that.
awesome.
That is really cool. Mike, we don't care about Mike.
I'm a lost call.
So
No, kudos to you.
what brought that change to go from 2 to 7? So you said within the last couple of years you bought 5, right?
We fell into the duplex situation years ago through circumstance, and we got married in 80, and 81 I went and took buying houses for no money down, a course in Washington DC. Robert Allen sat through the whole thing on a weekend, came home and said, I don't want to be a landlord. That's what it boils down to. And I kept my contractor business going on and everything, and one day a real estate agent came and said, hey, the self-storage business in Shepherdstown is for sale. And, he says, I think it's a moneymaker. And I looked at it, and they wanted $250,000 for it, and I said, well, if we raise the rent, it would pay for itself. And I went and talked to the bank, and the bank said, well, if you'll put your house up as collateral, we'll lend you the $250,000. And so we did. We got into that. She quit her job as a travel agent and managed that, became a stay-at-home mom, and it paid for vacations in itself and her income and all that kind of stuff. And we learned every story about why you don't let them move in if they don't have a security deposit and the rent.
The Small Business Administration had a course on how to collect past due debt. Yeah. So I took that, and that was really, really helpful, because I'm a nice person and I don't like to be not nice. And it helped me understand there's a difference between being a nice person and being a business person. And you don't have to be a nasty business person. You can be a nice business person. It's just business and not personal. So it's one of those worth taking.
But then we ended up selling that, and then it was like getting ready for thinking towards retirement and that sort of thing, I ran across bigger pockets, and at that point I could understand what they were talking about, and we'd had the experience of dealing with all these self-storage clients, so becoming a landlord wasn't a bad deal. So at that point, then it was step it up and get into it. So, and we're pretty local. We flipped the one in Hagerstown and decided that was too far from home, and so then we flipped another one in Charlestown, and then we just are staying around Jefferson County and that sort of thing, and keep wandering into one at a time that is working for us.
As I said earlier, rent's due on the 1st, late on the 5th, file on the 6th. That's pretty important to me. And then another thing that, for anybody, I don't know if there's anybody here who hasn't really bought anything yet, but back when I first bought my first couple of places, I was still working at GE, and I had this one tenant hadn't paid. It was my first time, had a friend who worked there also. He said, I thought it was a really good point for me. Cause I felt terrible about having to evict this guy. I have the power, the authority to kick him out on the street. I can kick this person out on the street. I know, that's mean. That's just mean and cruel, And he said, it made a real good point. He said, Mike, did he pay his rent? Well, no, that's the reason why I'm kicking him out. Well, then you're not kicking him out. He's kicking himself out. For not paying his rent, he's the one that's kicking himself out, not you. And that just stuck with me. So that's my little, it made it so much easier to kick everybody else out.
It comes down to priorities. Are they prioritizing keeping a roof over their house, or are they prioritizing
Exactly.
an addiction? I have a tenant that pays their rent on time every time, but they recently had their electric cut off. They prioritize their rent.
Which is good.
I've never seen that situation before, and I'm like, I'm inclined to do a little research and find out who can help them, because they're paying me every month.
Yeah.
A little shocked about that
I'm
one.
very clear with people. I invested on the 10th, but now it's going to be on the 6th. I don't deal with the games anymore. I get tired of it. Up front, before they sign anything. That's what I do. If you can't do that, I evict on the 10th. I file, and 10 days later you're gone. So it usually works.
And one last thing, Mike and I are, we love to meet up for lunch, and we're gonna start a monthly lunch meetup mastermind type group. So if anyone is interested in joining us, let us know. We're gonna meet.
Let him know. He does computers, not me. Smoke signal me. Give me smoke signals.
There's no cost. We just love to get together and talk real estate. So let us know if you want to come.
How do you sign up for that?
Just let us know. We can give you the details on it.
It's this coming Tuesday. It's at lunchtime, but this is down in Winchester.
Winchester?
In Winchester.
Yeah.
At a Mexican restaurant. So
Okay.
ask you to buy a meal. Everything else is free. That's as much for us to want to find, for us to want to learn as much as also, there's a lot of experience right in here, a lot of experience. And I love learning. I'm always picking up something new or something from whenever I come to one of these places. So, it's always a good thing. I've been doing it for about 25, 30 years, but I'm always picking up something. So.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I don't know if we have the other slides.
I think we have a couple slides now.
Yeah, it's just takes a little while.
Shut it down.
Good.
Good
job.
Yeah.
Nice. Good job.
Just fun.
Yeah. Well done.
Okay, say goodbye.
Peace out.